What is going on, everybody? It is Dylan with DFS, bringing you a brand new video. Today's video, I'm going over Week 12's quarterback and running backs to target. So this is early on in the week. There's not a whole lot of injuries going on just because it's early. This is recorded Wednesday morning, so usually Tuesdays are walkthroughs. There's not really a practice for most teams unless you have a game on Thursday. I'll have that video going out later today or tomorrow morning, one of the two. But this is for Sunday's main slate. So 3 quarterbacks above 8K. Jalen Hurts and Patrick Mahomes, I have as cash plays right now. Jalen Hurts, I have the fantasy points per game against him. This is in DraftKings, so the bonuses are there. Otherwise, they're pretty much the same as regular PPR format. 4-point touchdown, stuff like that. But the Bills' defense on paper, 14.8 fantasy points a game against quarterbacks. You look at some of the quarterbacks they faced, though, this year. Zach Wilson twice, that kind of lowers it a little bit. But they haven't been a crazy good defense. Obviously, they've added a corner in Douglas, who's definitely stepped up and really helped their pass defense. But overall, their defense, I think, is very shaky at times. It seems like sometimes some of the drives are really, really solid, really locked in. Other drives, it just seems like you could drive down the field on them. And with Josh Allen having 12 interceptions leading the league, it kind of gives other teams opportunities to score. So, Jalen Hurts, cash play, the most expensive quarterback on the slate. One of the highest, I think, second in fantasy, maybe first. I can't remember there, but has the second best PFF pass block advantage, which is huge. Highest total at 48.5. There's 2 games at 48.5 now, I believe. 25.5 team implied total. And Jalen Hurts is averaging 26.1 DK points at home. So a lot of pluses there for Jalen Hurts in this game, which I think is going to be probably one of the chalkier games. We'll see what it looks like come Sunday, but it's feeling that one's going to be one of the chalkier ones. Patrick Mahomes, 8,200 against Vegas, another team whose defense, shows up well in points allowed to quarterbacks. Kansas City with the third highest team implied total. Patrick Mahomes, this stat is crazy looking it up, averages 2.7 passing touchdowns a game and 304 passing yards a game against Vegas. That is some crazy numbers for Patrick Mahomes. Hopefully Taylor Swift's there, to boost Travis Kelce, because that's a thing. I don't get it, but that's a thing apparently. But in a game like this, a matchup, I saw another stat too, that the Chiefs offense hasn't scored a second half touchdown in like 3-4 games, something like that. That's a crazy stat, but big favorites here against Vegas on the road, division game. Need a bounce back opportunity in this conference to hold on to first, so that'll be interesting. But I really like Patrick Mahomes. He's a solid quarterback, and especially the Vegas numbers against some pluses there as well. Next is Josh Allen, 8,100. I have as a tournament play right now. Could easily see him moving to catch. Obviously, that offense has a really good game last week against the Jets with a new OC. Their PFF grade is, I think, a bottom 10, if I'm not mistaken. Leads the league in interceptions for quarterbacks, not team. There's some teams with a little bit more somehow. Highest total on the slate, and the Eagles have the third most passing yards against. So there are some positives for Josh Allen. Playing from behind means they're going to throw the ball. Philly's got a really good run defense, so that stops James Cook, Latavius Murray. As long as Josh Allen and that offense doesn't turn the ball over 3 or 4 times against a team like Philly, where the run game is really good, and the Bills' rush defense is not good. If Philly gets a 2-touchdown lead, you could see them kill the clock quite a bit running the ball. So hopefully Josh Allen and that team doesn't turn the ball over too much. CJ Stroud, though, 7,700, another tournament play, and another guy I could see going in my cash pool. Averaging 26.3 DK points per game at home. Jacksonville allowing 265.9 passing yards and 1.6 passing touchdowns a game. In Houston having a top 10 team implied total, obviously tied for the highest game total this slate. not weak. There's some high ones. But yeah, the Jacksonville Houston one's another one where you're going to see a lot of ownership with Stroud. I mean, Trevor Lawrence is good for his price, not great. Ridley, Kirk, Nico, Tank Dell, Evan Ingram, maybe Singletary, maybe ETN. We'll see what that looks like. The rushing game doesn't look as good, but another game to where, I mean, CJ Stroud, I think has, unless he goes and plays really bad the rest of the season, pretty much has the Rookie of the Year, Offensive Rookie of the Year award locked. Like, crazy good. And now we're talking about him for MVP candidate. So CJ Stroud just continues to blow expectations out of the water. It is crazy what he's doing. I have him as a tournament. Like I said, I could see him being a cash play. I don't mind him in cash. I just think for the price point, kind of a tournament play right now. But we'll see what the week brings us. Kyler Murray is another guy I might make a tournament play depending. His price is getting up there, though. We'll see what that looks like. Derek Carr, we're checking the injury status. If he's in, I think it's a good price point, good matchup for him. Baker Mayfield, next guy I have as a tournament play. Top 10 PFF pass block advantage, averaging 18.5 DK points per game at home. Second most rushing yards to QBs and tied for most rushing quarterback touchdowns allowed. Indy has. Baker Mayfield got a couple rushing touchdowns, got some rushing upside we've seen. And overall, I like this Tampa Bay Indy game. I might take the over in this game. It seems like a over-type game with Baker and Gardner Minshew, both quarterbacks, kind of similar style. So I hope those two ball out pretty much. But yeah, Gardner Minshew is the next one that I have as a value, averaging 24.5 DraftKings points per game at home. Tampa Bay allowing 290 yards, 4 quarterback rushing touchdowns allowed. The price point for Gardner, he's not going to blow you away with fantasy points. Sometimes he will. He'll have that boom game. We've seen it. I think the first home game that he started, he had like 30-something points. So at his price point, going against a defense that allows 22.4, so that's hitting 4 times value, right? If Minshew were to get that, that's a value. And that's why I have him as a value. I really like his price point. There's some other guys that might make the list later on in the week. Like I said, it's pretty early, so we're looking at stuff. Jameis, I have as a value if Derek Carr is out, right? Derek Carr has to be out. He's going through concussion protocol still, so that's odd. But 4,900 for Jameis, I think he has easily a 15 plus upside. Obviously, he's going to throw a couple picks, but I love Jameis for fantasy. He makes fantasy fun. And then Bailey Zappi is a name to watch out for. The Patriots, as far as I know, haven't announced their quarterback, the starting quarterback this week, right? Giants giving up 18.4 DK points a game to quarterbacks. Now, we saw Bailey Zappi have some success last year, and then some shaky games last year, and shaky-ish getting into finish games this year. But at his price point for 4,400, and we have some heavy hitters at wide receiver and a really good tight end group this week. Obviously, I don't think the running backs, we'll go over it here shortly, I don't think the running back plays are too strong top, so you could save money there. And obviously the wide receivers, I think there's only one above 9K, but there's a lot of good plays above 8. We'll get that later in the week, but if you need money, Bailey Zappi at 4,400, right? Not a great offense to really target, but I don't mind it at 4,400. It's not often to get decent quarterbacks, not saying good, decent for what he did last year. You know, I think 12 to 13 fantasy points is obtainable with Zappi this week, and at 4,400, that's kind of what you're hoping for. But yeah, let's get into running back. So Alvin Kamara is the only running back above 8K. He's got an 1,100 difference between him and Barkley, which is I don't like Kamara this week against Atlanta. They play running backs pretty good overall, but I think for the price difference that you get in some of these running backs, I'd rather just pay down. Not a whole lot of value at running back this week. So Saquon at 7,300 I have as a tournament play. 30 red zone opportunities in 8 games. That's almost 4 a game. That's pretty impressive. Had a really good week last week, right? 30 fantasy points, got used as a dual running back in the pass game as well. I just don't know if the pay up is worth it, right? 7,300 for a running back this week. I'd rather just pay up at wide receiver and pay a little more at tight end. Remember, there's no value at defense this week, so you're going to have to make some tough decisions somewhere. Running back's probably the one you get to, especially with the quarterbacks too. Like quarterback pay up this week. Jonathan Taylor, 6,900 against Tampa is my first cash play that I have at running back. The running back plays are amazing this week. Some are good. A lot are kind of rough. But at 6,900, I think it's a really good price point. 19 red zone opportunities in 6 games that he's played. Second best PFF run block advantage. In 5 out of his 6 games that he's played, he's got 10 plus fantasy points, so kind of a safe floor. The only one he didn't get 10 is the first game he got in, but after that he's been pretty solid. Splitting red zone work with Zach Moss still getting some work, which is kind of the concern. But I think Jonathan Taylor is definitely a guy that gets the receiving work in this game. So at his price point, I like it. DeAndre Swift tournament play, you could put him in cash. I'm okay with that as well. I'm perfectly okay with Swift in cash. 27 red zone opportunities, kind of is a third, right? Gainwell and Jalen Hurts getting a lot of that, especially Jalen Hurts within the 5. But highest total, Buffalo giving up just under 1,500 total yards to running backs, and the third best PFF run block advantage. So some positives there for Swift. Josh Jacobs, 6,700, another tournament play. 40 red zone opportunities for Jacobs. Up there in rushing percentage, one of the higher running backs, and a couple red zone targets, but not too many. It's a tough matchup. But Josh Jacobs averaging 89 total yards and a touchdown a game versus Chiefs. 4th best run block advantage. So if you kind of consider that, that's about 14, 15, which is kind of where his total's at for Josh Jacobs, which is why I have him as a tournament. Plus, this is probably the best Chiefs defense we've seen in a while. They're playing a lot good. Kyren Williams, watch this injury status. If he is healthy, I love him for cash. They just got rid of Henderson, which kind of tells me that it's Kyren Williams coming back. I don't think they'd get rid of Henderson unless he was coming back. Obviously, Freeman had a good game, so I don't know if they're going to do the whole Kyren Williams gets 90% or like 99% of the snaps, a majority of the team's red zone work. I don't think it's going back to that. But it is something to watch for of Puka and Kupp. Both are questionable. Kupp never came back into that game. I guess Puka got hurt towards the end. So that's something to watch as well. I think overall it's a good matchup, especially with the Cardinals giving up 28 DK points to running backs a game. Next, Derrick Henry I have as a cash play. I know it's tough to put him in cash for what he's done this year, but if there's any game for him to have a really good game, we saw with Tony Pollard too. Had a good game against his team, and he's been lackluster so far this season. But Derrick Henry, top 10 PFF run block advantage, 14 rushing touchdowns allowed, and Henry gets 68% of the red zone carries. So there's that upside. Carolina just giving up a lot of rushing yards to running back. So if there's a game for Derrick Henry to have a really good game, 20 plus fantasy points, it's this one. His price point is very good at 6,400 as well. Joe Mixon's a tournament play for me at 6,300 against Pittsburgh. Obviously they're home, always love that, but league high 89.7% of the red zone carries are by Joe Mixon. If you take Burrow out, he's at 95%, I believe. Obviously, Joe Burrow's not there, but we saw Joe Mixon still have a really good game regardless. This one is a close game. Obviously, we know Pittsburgh's got a bottom 5 offense in the league. Got rid of their OC. Their new OC, a running back coach with no real offensive coordinator NFL experience. So, this is a low-scoring game. It's one of the lowest-scoring games of the week. One of the lower-scoring games of the season. So I like running backs in this type of game. We saw Jaylen Warren have a great game in a low total game. It's still possible for players to be fantasy relevant in low-scoring games. So But yeah, he's also second on the team in red zone targets, which is crazy. But with T. Higgins out, I guess, and I don't know. Joe Mixon's second on the team in red zone carry. So a lot of red zone work for him if they get down there. There's a good chance Mixon's getting some rushes and maybe a target. So that's why I have him as a tournament play. We don't know what the Bengals offense is going to look like without Burrow. Don't know what Pittsburgh's offense is going to look like without Canada. Maybe they're good. Maybe they are. Maybe this running back coach is good. So we'll see what that looks like come Sunday. Isaiah Pacheco cash play for me. Isaiah Pacheco, everyone talks about how good he is running the ball, and he is good. Just fantasy, he's just not getting there in points. If he doesn't get a touchdown, his fantasy is usually not there. He's a good actual running back in the league, which is good for the Chiefs, but fantasy is not really there. But he does have 29 red zone opportunities. Vegas allowing the fourth most rushing yards to running backs and 8 total rushing touchdowns allowed to running backs. So there's some upside there. He's kind of in that mid-tier range at running back. So that's kind of what I like this week so far. I think getting a mix of Derrick Henry, Joe Mixon, Pacheco, and then Rachaad White, we'll talk about here in a second, is kind of the play this week. The values are not really there at running back. The pay-ups, there's not a lot of good matchups that scream worth paying for. Like I said, I kind of see just paying up for quarterback, wide receiver, tight end this week, paying down at running back, and figuring out what you're going to do at defense. So Rachaad White, next running back I have in cash, like I said, 30 red zone opportunities for him. Indy giving up 11 running back touchdowns total. And Rachaad White's secretly just having good fantasy success. 15 plus fantasy points in the last 5 games. And he's only 6,100. Right? We see some other running backs up here like Bijan, Derrick Henry, even Jonathan Taylor, who I mentioned 10 plus, but he's not getting the 15. Josh Jacobs. Rachaad White is still underpriced for getting 15 plus fantasy points and the high percentage of red zone carries, but 30 red zone opportunities total, like that's really good for someone like Rachaad White for his price point. I think he's a great cash play this week so far. Ramondre I have as a tournament. He came up questionable. He played the game, so I was kind of confused when I saw he was questionable coming into week 12 now. Everything looks like it's going to be good for him to play. Going against the Giants defense, 24.1 DK points a game to running back. So a fairly good matchup for him. Top 10 PFF run block advantage. 20 carries last week, which is his season high. The Giants' second most rushing yards against and 11 touchdowns to running back. So there's some promising stats for Ramondre Stevenson here. Obviously, Zeke gets... I think he's out-snapping Ramondre or out-carrying Ramondre in the red zone. So that's something that is concerning. But between the 20s, Ramondre is kind of like a Rachaad White type of running back for his team, except Rachaad White doesn't have Zeke behind him. Zeke's look pretty good in my opinion in his role. Jerome Ford I have as a value. Not a tournament because it's, I don't know. Like you could put Jaylen Warren as a value as well, but I like Jaylen Warren. I'd want to get more exposure to Jaylen Warren than Jerome Ford, but obviously you see 33.2 DK points a game to running backs. So you just go and look at the rushing yards Denver's defense has allowed, and it is crazy. Cleveland going to have to run the ball a lot here with DTR as their quarterback. My only concern is he split to work with Kareem Hunt. Like if Kareem Hunt wasn't there and Kareem Hunt didn't get the red zone carries, Jerome Ford would be a smash play this week. But unfortunately, he does split the work. But Denver's defense has given up 1,800 yards and 13 total touchdowns to running backs. You're going to want exposure to the Cleveland running backs, both of them. Not just Ford. Kareem Hunt too. Kareem Hunt can easily get a 2-touchdown game, get you 13 fantasy points off 2 touchdowns, and he hits value, right? But Jaylen Warren tournament play. Last 6 out of 7 games, 10 plus fantasy points. Harris splits the work. Harris has actually been out snapping him. But since he's given up 8 rushing touchdowns allowed, in the new OC is a running back coach. That's what he was for the team. So you might see some more love for Jaylen Warren. We'll see what that looks like, though. And then last but not least, I have as a value is Tyjae Spears. I think Tyjae Spears is a legit value play for me this week at 4,400. If you wanted to go Tyjae Spears, right, in another running back and only pay $10K for running back, right, you pay Derrick Henry, or let's say you pay Pacheco and Tyjae Spears. You're paying 10-6 for 2 running backs. That's really good, right? You look, he's only averaging 7.7 DK points a game, so nothing crazy. But he's averaging 5.2 yards per carry, 37 targets on the season. Just needs a volume, right? That's the biggest concern. If Tyjae was the lead back, like if Derrick Henry wasn't there, Derrick Henry got traded, Tyjae Spears' numbers would be incredible, in my opinion, in this offense. I just think he's more explosive in the way this offense is than Derrick Henry. Tennessee's offense is not meant for Derrick Henry right now. It's just not. They're not what they used to be. Derrick Henry's obviously gotten older, but that offensive line isn't what they used to be to support a running back like Derrick Henry. They're more there to support a running back like Tyjae Spears. At his price point, I could easily see him getting 10 plus fantasy points. And at 4,400, that is perfect. That is what you love to get out of a running back that cheap. So hope you guys did enjoy this video. I will have videos going out over the wide receivers, tight end, possibly defense this week because of the prices. We'll see what that looks like, but for sure wide receiver, tight end, that video will be out this week. I will have a video going out over the 3-game Thanksgiving slate, so if you guys are interested in that, check that one out as well. I'll have a video going out for the Friday showdown as well. So a lot of videos coming out for me this week. Got an extra couple days off, so it allows me to do that, thankfully. But yeah, if you guys are interested in that, check those out. Hit subscribe. That way when I upload, boom, they're right there for you. And like I said, if you guys did enjoy the video, hit a like. If you guys are interested in joining us, we've been killing main slates this season. Our player pools have been hitting so well this season. So if you guys are interested in that, we have FanDuel as well as DraftKings. So if you guys are interested, click the link in the description. Very cheap package for what we offer. So hope you guys did enjoy. I'll see you in the next one.